Hey, good evening. This is John Arnold, second, third. This evening is wonderful. This episode is this is very important. People are talking about one of the things we have to talk about is in terms of everything that's going on. What is the resource that you as a citizen have when the police don't treat you right? When they do something that's improper, when they do something that's against the law. That's when you make a formal complaint to internal affairs. It's such a big matter that all consent decrees, they found that people were being dissuaded from making internal affairs complaints. And it seemed to be a big problem in not only your major cities, but especially your smaller departments. So now it's mandatory that there are signs that tell you, the citizen, how to file a complaint. Let's say you're on a traffic stop and the officer is very nasty to you. He calls you out your name. He's just very verbally abusive or even physically abusive. What happens? What happens in those situations? What's your recourse? Do you have to sit there and take it? Is there a process that you can go through in order to make sure that the officer is reprimanded so that it doesn't happen to anyone else? That's what we're going to talk about. That's what internal affairs is about. No one likes to go to internal affairs. Police officers don't like to go to internal affairs. We don't like to work internal affairs if we're on the job because it's something that we don't want to do. But listen, it's a needed, it's a necessary aspect of police, police themselves. And there's internal affairs on the municipal level, there's internal affairs on the county level, state level, and federal level. So we're going to get into that tonight. Listen, I'm going to bring on two people. Um, I call them the experts. Batman and Robin, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman. I'm talking about retired detective Stephanie Treadwell and retired detective Anthony Cox. Yes. All right. How you guys doing?
All right.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm excited, man. We have Anthony. We have one of our friends, Adele Giles, that's going to be coming on tonight. He's talking about internal affairs. And, I never worked internal affairs. I didn't want to work internal affairs, but I sat as deputy director, as chairman of the trial board. And, they did their investigation and presented it to the trial board. We'll talk about that, how that works, what happens once internal affairs completes their investigation. And we're going to go into a lot of good topics of discussion. We're going to look at a case in Wisconsin, and we're going to, just talk about that a little bit. We don't have too many facts on it right now because it's still under investigation, but we're going to let the viewers know what's going on, like from our viewpoint, what's going on, what could happen, what should happen, what to expect. And we're going to do that tonight. Is that all right, guys and lady?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, good with
All
me.
right. But listen, before we do any of that, this past Saturday, I got a call that we lost a very good officer to COVID. He was a friend of mine, a friend of ours, awesome detective. He was a Newark son. He was a football star. He was working in the mayor's office, executive protection unit for the chief of staff, Midi Baraka. And, he had COVID and he beat it. And he was, we thought everything was okay. But then on Saturday, I heard he had shortness of breath, and then there was some complications. And next thing you know, we got a call that he passed away. I'm talking about Newark Detective Irv Callender. We're going to have a moment of silence for Irv because Irv is a man that we are never going to forget. I mean, even the strongest of us broke down on this one. This one really hit us home. So if we can just have Irv's picture up and take a moment of silence. Rest in power, Irv. We love you, man. We're going to miss you. We're going to miss you. As a good brother. Listen, we have a guest tonight. I don't want to prolong the show. I want to bring him on because this brother is a friend of ours. He just recently retired from the Port Authority Police, but he has a resume that is awesome. He has had worked in some very good units, some very important units. I'm talking about Adele Giles. He's a retired detective, former inspector general, and he's worked internal affairs. And he's going to be giving us some, answering some questions for us, and also talking a little bit about the internal affairs process. Let's bring our guest in now, Adele Giles. Adele, how you doing?
I'm good.
Hey,
Blessed.
bless. Hey, listen, man. You know, one thing you didn't put on your bio is that you're a Jets fan, man. We
Nothing wrong with
loyal.
that, man.
But listen, man, we welcome you to the show. We thank you for accepting the invitation, and to our viewers, when they see the police, a lot of times they've had bad encounters with the police. Let's be for real. Some cops, they just don't follow the protocols and the procedures, and it's a bad experience. And as a father, I have children, and my children have told me that some cops that have pulled them over have been very abusive. And, and we want to talk about the department within the police department, the unit that handles that. We want to talk about that today. But before we do that, could you just give our viewers just a little bit of background about your experience and your recent retirement, man? Come on.
All right. So, 1993, I joined the Essex County Sheriff's Department. And then right after that, Port Authority called, and, I ran running.
Yeah.
Port Authority Police Department has been very good to me. With exceptions, sometimes, but I had a great career. I got promoted in 2005 to detective, and then from there, the sky was the limit for me. And I, was there for a little bit over 25 years, and I'm thankful. As you know, sir, God's blessings always shines on you.
Yeah. Yes.
So I believed, and I went through it, and I made it. And that's the one thing I tell a lot of young cops: like, listen, you get on the job, you make it, but do right, and right things come by you.
Right.
And that's what I would think about working in the unit that I worked when I was in internal affairs. Is just like, listen, if you did right, the right things are always going to come by you.
Right. And you're being modest, but man, you need to give us a little bit more about what you did, man. A little bit more about your background. I mean, I know you got some high classified stuff you can't talk about, but at least tell me a little bit about the agency that you work with.
4 years as a task force officer at the FBI Violent Crimes Unit, major cases. I worked a lot of cases that people probably seen my face and they're like, yo, that's that, oh, what was the story? That's that Fed. That was the thing I used to get. Yeah. That's the Fed. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, you were Inspector General also.
I worked for the Office of Inspector General. I wasn't the Inspector General.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh yeah, let's clear that up.
I worked for them. I wasn't him. He was a good man. He just recently passed away, but he was a good man. So, and he gave me the opportunity. He always looked out for me. So yes, I worked for some great offices, man, and the experiences that people and opportunities that people get to you, you don't always get them because there's going to come a time where you have to return the same favor, and I really appreciate everything that has came to me. Like I said, God's blessings, man.
Yeah.
And I believe in that, man.
Yeah.
I've
Me
been
too.
blessed my entire life.
Yeah. Listen, man. That's amazing when you can have a career that expands that many years, and do the things that you did, and then come out and look back and say, listen, man, it was a good run. I spoke to, right now there's this anti-police sentiment across the nation, and one of my friends posted. He was a former Bloomfield police officer. He posted as well. He said, he was upset about it. And one of the things I said to him, I said, Tommy, listen, man, if you and I can go 25 years without a blemish on our record, doing the job the right way, these new guys, new guys and girls, they have to do it the same way, because so many others have done the job and have retired without internal affairs complaints. I mean, you're going to get complaints. If you don't get complaints, you're not doing anything on the job. People are at least going to, complain about you something. That's but sustained complaints I'm talking about. We retired and didn't have those in our record. And, I said, if we can do it, they have to do it, because I'm tired of cops, tarnishing our badge and staining our profession. So, so one of the things that, I found when I came to Newark as a deputy police director was Director Venable, put me over the trial board. And I never wanted to work internal affairs when I was in the prosecutor's office, because, nobody likes IA guys. Let's be for real. You probably got the Snickers and all of that, people looking at you all crazy and side-eyed. But yeah, I saw that it was necessary, because I saw as a director, a civilian director, I saw the need. There were some officers who had issues that they needed to be adjusted and they needed to be taken care of. So internal affairs was the mechanism in the police department that we had to use, and they presented their evidence, just like going to trial. As the trial board, it was just like being in court. You had to present evidence. The prosecutor had to present evidence. The defense lawyer, defended the detective as much as he could. And we listened. We did what we had to do, and I found the person. I was the judge, so I had to find the person guilty, along with a panel of captains, captain commanders. And there was a price to pay when you did something, an infraction against anyone on the street, or illegal, or just a demeanor complaint. It could be just on a motor vehicle stop that someone would come up there and cop would pull them over and start being verbally abusive to them, and that would be a demeanor complaint. We had a lot of those. But I want you to just explain to us maybe the process for the people. Just give them a definition of what the internal affairs unit is, and the process of how they would approach internal affairs if they had a bad encounter with a police officer.
So my agency, we was internal affairs, we were special investigations, and we decided, long before I got there, to call it the Police Integrity Unit. And that's one of the things that we have to understand is police integrity.
Okay.
And what we do is we investigate some of the complaints that come to the department, describing the police officer's integrity, the way he acts, mainly the professionalism that he's supposed to project as, as being a, public servant. And because, you got to call it what it is. That's what we are. We're public servants. We're there to serve the people. And, a lot of people don't realize that there's a unit that you can go to, that you can talk about, like if somebody called you a name, if somebody says something that was out of pocket, or somebody telling you that you can't do certain things. And internal affairs unit is that unit that looks and says, okay, but there's other units too that other agencies have, which is CCRB, or civilian complaint, unit, or, everybody has their own name for it, but there's other, parts of the same agency that you can go to and make a complaint.
So when you said, I just want to stop you for a second, because I want to just touch on the point that you just said. You said when officers tell you things that you can't do, like when they try to deter you from making a complaint or following a certain action that the civilians or the citizen has a right to do. Is that what you mean by trying to tell you what not to do?
No, they don't. Not. Excuse me. They're not telling you not to do it.
Okay.
You that you could do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what, a lot of people just like, oh, the cops won't look out for themselves. They're going to look
Right.
out for each other. But they don't realize that there's a separate unit that does those complaints.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay.
And they can't make that go away because, at that point, when you say, okay, I'm going to this unit, the people are watching. We always
Right.
watch.
Right.
Watching too, because that comes on us.
Right.
That really
So
comes.
yeah. So that's interesting because internal affairs. I know one thing with when we were going through the consent decree, negotiations, that now most departments have to have signage that says if the citizen wants to file a complaint, there's a telephone number, there's a form in every precinct that they have available to them to file the complaint, because that's how serious it is. Because we were finding out that a lot of citizens were going to the departments and were being, deterred from filing a complaint against an officer because maybe the officer behind the desk, that was their friend, and they know that it was a serious problem or there was a number of problems, and they were trying to get the citizen not to file a complaint. And that was something that the U.S. Attorney's Office found that was prevalent, and it needed to stop. So, I think Steph, you when before you left, I think that became something mandatory, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, and it was posted all over. It was posted in the hallways. It was posted in, about how to go about filing a complaint. And they even had forms when you were there.
Right, right, right. Yeah, because so it was it's a big thing. Now let's say this. Let's give us a scenario. All right, I'm gonna give one, and Steph probably give one. Maybe Tony might give one too. Like, Tony was always in internal affairs, right? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, putting his business on. We wasn't. I got good cops.
Did my job.
That's right. I got good cops on here.
Did my job.
So let's say I'm driving down the street, and I get pulled over, and officer walks up to me, tie over to the side, button shirt all unbuttoned, and very nasty. Talks to me in a very nasty demeanor. I asked him, officer, I'm sorry, excuse me, officer, what did you pull me over for? He said, don't just give me a driver's license, registration, insurance card. And then, he continues to talk to me, in a very demeaning type of way, like an angry type of way. It's not very professional, So what's my next course of action? If I'm really bothered by it, I'm disturbed by the encounter. What recourse do I have? What should I do?
One of the things is that I always say that, he's on something different. His world is way to the left, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, our goal, and I don't care what color you are, but our goal is to come home safe to our family.
Right.
If, he's unprofessional, and that's unprofessional, because one of my agency's logo was professionalism. Professionalism starts with you.
Right.
And anybody that's ever worked in a jail, transported a prisoner, did anything, they say, like, they look at us, how we dress, how we act, how we interact with them. And that's one of the biggest things. Like, if it's ties to the side, like you said,
Yeah.
and he ain't professional.
Yeah.
Like, if I was looking to run away and escape, if I was looking to do a Shawshank, that's the guy that I want.
Right. Okay. Got you.
Be professional all the time.
Right.
But at the end of the day, for us, we need to always, if they add, we want them to be professional, be responsive, and be that person that,
Right.
like, listen, I'm listening to what you have to say. Tell me what I need to do, and let me lay out what I need to lay out for you.
Right.
And that's very important because, that determines whether or not, and I hate to say it, but the times we live in, that's going to determine whether you're going to go home for your family or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's it's an issue, you know, because I've seen it, you know, as a retiree, you know, I see it now with a lot of uh, police officers in different municipalities. You know, there's a difference. Some are very professional, some are very unprofessional, and I'm like, man, I can't believe that, you know, they allow you to come out on the street like that. But I'm more concerned about the treatment of the citizens by the officers. And you know, so if I had that type of encounter, what would be, and I as a taxpayer and very involved in my local activities and civic organizations, community organizations, and I know that police officer looked very, you know, out of uniform, very sloppy. His demeanor was very poor. And I want to let someone know, what do I do next? I want to let his superior, even if it's not to get him in trouble or anything, but what is it that, you know, he's a bad representation of the blank blank police department. What should I do next?
And that's
so
what
should be clear.
Civilian Complaint Review Board is for, is to talk about those moments. We may not necessarily have to do nothing to you. It could be something as simple as you see a sergeant and say, hey, listen, you know, see, you know, John Smith officer that's out here. I see him every day, but you know, the minute he comes out of the precinct, his tie's unbuttoned and he don't look good, and you know, he's sloppy and he's very discourteous. Like, and that's one of the biggest component is just be able to say something, and go report it. If you feel some way about that, you have to go say something. You have to, you know, because it wasn't like when we grew up many years ago in Newark, where you're like, oh, I can't say nothing because this person knows that person and that person knows that person. Now there's vessels for you to go and to talk about those things that you feel strongly about. And if that's something that you feel strongly about, there's somewhere that you can go and say something.
Right. Good. I want to look at a couple of our questions, comments from our viewers. Captain Caroline Clark. Let me tell you something. Captain Clark used to run one of the best precincts in the Newark Police Department when I was there. They loved her. She was the go-to person. She says a lot of citizens are fearful of going to the internal affairs to file a complaint out of fear of being victimized. You get mistreated by the officer in the street, and then you may get record checked and arrested while trying to file a complaint. Okay, that's a valid. She hit it. She hit it. So your experience, how do we as citizens, when we want to file a complaint, that's a form of intimidation. And how do we deal with that? Because that's common. That's common, you know.
Just go. Not being funny, but you just go. Like, if that's, you know, the only vessel that they have to deter you, you still got to go. Because at the end of the day, you know, we as, you know, when I used to work there, we as internal affairs, we still have to investigate that.
Yeah. Right.
A guy in jail, a guy who got released from jail, a guy in prison, we still have to look into that. And so, you know, we go back and we look into everything that was presented to us at the time. And some of us wonder, like, yo, why we didn't get to because he had a warrant. So what? He still got a complaint.
Yeah. So Steph,
yeah.
So I want to ask Steph. So in that particular situation, before you left Newark, was there any type of policy or anything that came out that said that when a person came in to file a complaint against a police officer, that type of intimidation tactic was not to be carried out? Was it anything like that came as a result of consent decree? Because I think that there was some language that they were trying to inject that in, that they wanted to make the experience of reporting a police and making an internal affairs complaint as less stressful as possible, regardless of the person had. But I don't know, Steph. I had left by then.
I believe so, because after that, I think they felt a little more comfortable with making the complaints. But I get it, just like, who was it? Charlie Upshaw. He had said something about um, they don't file a complaint because they don't think nothing will be done. I don't think they're afraid. I don't think they even think that um, they're going to be record checked.
Right.
That I kind of could believe that would happen, but with him saying that, that's like saying, "Don't vote because your vote now won't count." But you got to go out, you got, but
Yeah.
you got to just do this. And I used to tell people, it's not a crime if you don't report it. Which it really, there's certain things are crimes, but if you don't report it, they don't know. And this is how things constantly keep going on. So you got to work on that. And then on top of it, on the reverse side of it, when they make complaints against us, that's, like totally lies. And, that I take issue with that too. We would go, when I worked in narcotics, we would go to a certain location where, always selling drugs. And when we got there, they would start hollering 6171. When I first heard that, I was like, "What is that?" That's in the last four digits
Of
to
the
the
knocking.
players.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
yeah. So I asked the guy. I said, "Okay, so what's up with that?" And he said, "Hey, that'll keep y'all off of us. We call internal affairs. That'll keep. It's a mess."
Yeah. So Adele, so we talked about that. We talked about what exactly what brother Charles Upshaw said. He said that they don't believe that nothing will be done, and I know that for our conversations we had conversation about similar events and people not following up. But you should talk on that and let the citizens know about those type of situations.
Like everybody say, like, oh, we call. Like, listen, the minute you make that phone call, the complaint is lodged. It's there. When you don't follow up, that's when, and please excuse my expression, but that's when people think like, yo, that's bullshit. Because what? Oh, he got a ticket now. He want to make a complaint. No, that same officer might have did something bad, and I'm not. And trust and believe, I don't bash any cop. I bash the bad cops that do bad things because it made it hard for us to do our job when we had to do the job because nobody
Right.
trusts.
Right.
No.
Right.
And at the beginning of the day, nobody trusts what we did because, this dude did whatever at the time.
Right.
And that's tough.
Right. So when you don't follow up, you're allowing someone else to possibly be victimized because yeah. Say again. I think you got cut out.
You're giving credibility that this cop did what he was supposed to do when he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do.
Right. Right.
Follow on a complaint. He's bad. He's doing the wrong thing. We all see stuff, and we all do our job and we recognize with the community, and when we recognize with the community, we talk to kids, and we talk to kids like our parents would have talked to us and say, hey, listen, knock it off, or whatever the case may be. We tell your mother, but you don't necessarily, have to be subjected to some of the things that goes on. But, some of them don't realize, like they take it way to the left. That's probably about the best I can say. They take it way to the left, and they do so many wrong things, and they do everything so wrong because that's what they think that we're supposed to be doing. And we don't do it don't go like that.
Right.
I grew up in a time where, policing was different. You did something wrong, not bad, not crazy, but the cop smacked you in the back of the head and took you home to your parents.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a mercy in my house because as long as he didn't say anything to my dad, I was good. But
we same bread. It was a lot of times my father was just like, he was on a job too, and he was just like, yo, he was in the back of the police car today. I was just like, so, we go through that.
Yeah. I got a question for Adele. Adele.
Yes, sir.
Let the viewers know who can make a complaint.
Everybody, anybody. You can go
Now,
to any, well, depending on what happened to you, you go to any that police department, and you make that complaint. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of agencies separated their internal affairs unit from the police department because they don't want that influence.
Right.
And they moved it to a different location. You can go there, make a complaint. You can complain about anything and everything that has happened to you. You know, my only thing is be right. You know, be as accurate as you can, but make sure that you tell the facts. You know, if you was wrong, you know, and growing up in the neighborhood, if you're wrong, chuck it up and move on. But you know, you know, if that cat was wrong in every which way, you just go out there and you make that complaint. You go to that department, that compartment of the department, and you go there and you make your complaint.
so part 2 to this. Quick scenario. Caller comes in, someone's on the corner selling drugs. Give a description of them. Police arrive, approach him. Argument ensues. They detain the guy. He's screaming, "You're putting the handcuffs on too tight." Take him into headquarters. They find the drugs. Take him in. They arrest him. Read him his rights. Take him into headquarters. A relative of his comes in and says, "I want to make a complaint. They put the handcuffs on my cousin too tight."
Right.
Once Internal Affairs starts the process, the investigation, they go to the victim who was arrested. They ask him, "Do you have a complaint?" He says no. What happens then?
They still investigate the complaint. Like if it's a internal affairs, he put the cuffs on too tight. We only know one way to put the cuffs on. One is not for escape. We don't want you to put them on like, oh, how these feel? We put them on to get you out of the way, and we take you to the precinct and we take them off. Is somebody twerking them? I don't believe so. You know, most times, but everybody is different. And the one people don't realize is that our body chemistry is a lot different. You actually have to put the cuffs on to the point where somebody that you don't fear that he's going to escape, that he's going to harm you, that he's going to harm anybody else, that he's going to get away. Especially, and we're talking about something minor. What you're saying, Tony, like we're talking about something minor. Imagine if a guy just did a murder and he just like, yo, I ain't going back to jail. You don't want that cat to get away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We caught him, we got him. He like, yo, I ain't going back. Aside from, putting them on a hood, like if we hit a deer or we went hunting, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're gonna put the cuffs on the way we supposed to and do what we're supposed to do. And I apologize. I will give you quick and swift medical attention if you're hurt. But at the same time, I do not want you getting away because you already hurt people.
Right. And for his safety too, or her safety as well, because we have instances where people who are under arrest have slipped out of the cuffs and have done things and caused themselves to lose their own life, by trying to escape. So yeah, I mean, also for their safety too, because the officer has the responsibility of the safety of the person that's under arrest as well. And that's another thing that they teach us. So the cuffs go on, a certain way, and that's the way they go on. And yes, they're going to be uncomfortable, but that's why you don't do things to get cuffs put on you in the first place.
Exactly.
So, I can't be restrained. I'm a good boy because I can't be restrained. I would go nuts if I had to be restrained with cuffs on. No, but I didn't mean to stop you. I don't know if Tony had anything else, but I do want to answer you make bring a comment to your attention that came in because it's very important. But Tony, I don't know. Did you want to give him another part 3 or part 4?
That's it.
You know you're gonna get grilled, bro. So, you know, when we were together watching the football game, we didn't really want to talk to you because we knew what you did, and we didn't want to like let too much out. But anyway, Nia Imani has a question.
Yes.
And it's a very good question. He said, who monitors the internal affairs officers to make sure they are not destroying or manipulating complaints to protect officers that are their friends?
We closely work with the Attorney General's office for the state. So like every state has an AG's office, and they monitor the monitors that monitor.
Okay.
So yeah.
And they do audits, right? I think that's the law. They do audits as well of your of internal affairs units. Nia, they do audits of what case of the cases to see how how they were adjudicated, what was the outcome of the case, and also that's what I believe you mentioned it in the beginning. You said CCRBs. That's what Citizen Complaint Review Boards do, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
They monitor the amount of cases that come in. They check the log and they randomly pick and see what cases. So if an officer is trying to hide, listen, I tell you like this. I've told all my partners, and I'm quite sure everyone on this live right now, and those in the comment who served as police officers told their friend, listen, I'll back you 100%. Just don't do anything illegal.
Exactly.
Because I'm not going to jail for you. I'm not going to jail for you. Okay. And that's one of the things that if you get caught messing with records, you do more time than the officer that the complaint filed, because that's now official misconduct. So Nia, just to answer your question, that's how it's monitored. I see that you asked the question: is are complaints video or written? That's a good question, Adele. Are they now videotaped as well?
Not every department. I see everybody's still trying to get on board. But just to go back to what you said, one of my old bosses said it, and that made me put my head down a lot. He's like, the lie is worse than the cover up.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
He pays it. So yeah.
Yeah. I've seen people who have tried to who have lied do more time than the actual criminal, than the person who committed the criminal act. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm sorry. That's just how it goes, So, especially in law enforcement, when it comes to officers, no, don't do anything illegal. Listen, if we can justify it, it's within the parameter of the law and our rules and regulations, you're good to go. Listen, everybody makes mistakes, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. You do something, crazy.
Yeah.
But,
I think that people should, regardless of anything, out of fear, whatever, get someone to go with you. But you need to make those complaints, because a lot of these officers are, if they're that bad, you may have just saved their life too. And even like the unlicensed pharmacists, they had no problem in going down internal affairs. I've known they went down and said, the officer stole my drugs and my money, and they still they still had to investigate the officer that they made the complaint against.
Yeah,
but I mean, just telling you guys out there, y'all, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
It's the oil.
And and y'all got to just, some of these people, y'all got to just bring them down, because if they think they can keep getting away with it, it's just like a kid until they, really get done, because it only takes one bad cop to undermine the goodness of all of the other good cops. So, I mean, how? I'm getting paid just like he is or she is, and I got to follow the rules. They need to follow the rules also.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a lot that have done good work, great work.
Yeah.
And, I take my hats off to these guys every day, because just like, you guys, I have been out there, and it's like, we seen stuff, and, we do our job, but it's other people out there that take it way to the left because they think, and there's people, and some of us know, I did background investigations too, that get on this job looking like, yo, I'm gonna get paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Dang.
Well,
Steffi, I'm gonna get
Steffi
paid.
can tell you that.
Paid.
What?
Yes,
Person
yeah.
to make sure that
With the people I work with.
Yeah, no, Steffi could tell you that when she was doing background investigations, that the stuff that she came across, that like, wait a minute, no way in the world are you coming on the job because we know what you do, you know.
And then checking their social media. I mean, seriously?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had to tell my grandson. He's a police officer now, but I had to tell him, you know, Facebook is monitoring your future.
Right.
So you got to watch, and everybody up there throwing them jail pictures, them.
Yeah.
All that. I mean, it's on here.
And ladies and gentlemen, viewers, we know that there have been some cops that have done some things and are doing some things, but you know, we don't, you know, those complaints have to go forward and there's a process. Now, Nia asked one more question. She said, and it's a good question. It says, what do you advise one who tries to file a complaint and officer refuses to take it? What is her recourse?
They shouldn't revise to take it because those complaints should be going through headquarters because it's recorded. Even if you show up there, those complaints should be going through no matter what.
Right.
The officer shouldn't be refusing to take it. If you're getting a police officer taking that complaint, it's all wrong at the management level because it should be a supervisor taking that complaint. And his supervisor above him if he's not available.
Right.
You get a cop that just like, all right, I'll take the complaint. Are they taking it on the site? No. You go. That's why they separated those units to make sure that you get that complaint, you know, in, so that you don't be afraid.
Right.
You know, I remember how it was back in the day when you walk into a precinct, like, I want to make a complaint, and they'd be like, you know, you see the same cop or his partner, and it's like, never, you know what? Never mind. Now
yeah.
And then to the prosecutor's office.
Right. That's the other.
Don't get none from there. Send it to the state police.
Yeah, that's right. So the thing is that the recourse is that if the department doesn't take the complaint, the prosecutor's office is next in line, and then if the prosecutor's office, if there's an issue there, you do have recourse with the state attorney general or state police, but state attorney general's office who supervises the prosecutor's offices. The thing is that you have to know the process and understand it so you know how to maneuver in it. The thing is that we don't understand the process. We don't understand the steps. So the steps are police department.
Police, yes.
Then if not there, the prosecutor's office, and then if the prosecutor's office doesn't adhere to it, then you have the state attorney general's office. Yes. And I can tell you right now, you know, somebody's going to catch it where they're like, "Hey, listen, why didn't the police department take it?" And that's one thing I have to say about Newark. Newark now has it in every precinct, I believe, forms, and they cannot refuse you making a complaint if you felt that you need to make a complaint against a police officer. They have to take it. And one of the things that, you know, and speaking of that, you know, just off a little bit, you know, I was a little deterred because I understand the frustration because there was a specialized unit that a friend of mine, a family member, tried to make contact with, and that unit that unit didn't even want to talk to the victim, a possible victim. The person died in the hospital. I'm like, well, you lost a lot of evidence, possible evidence there. So, you know, those type of situations, even that's now a form of a complaint that they have to lodge now because the detective didn't even give them the courtesy of speaking to them. They spoke through another officer at the precinct, and you know, this was serious. The person, you know, now the person's dead. There was an autopsy done. Comes back, there's a homicide. You know, somebody's gonna have problems. And Captain Clark, you're right. Write down names, times, and location. That's the same exact information that I asked them. Very important.
I give you a complaint number. You fill
right.
out.
Oh yeah, just like a CC number.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
2, 4, 5.
Right.
You know, follow through, and you know, I spoke about this with you several times. The number is the most important thing, and the follow through.
Right.
Through.
Follow through. So
walk away and be like, oh well, yeah, he did. No, follow through on your complaint.
Right. So I want to give you something, something that we've been talking about amongst ourselves. We've been trying to analyze, and we're analyzing. Let me just say this: we're analyzing from the viewpoint of civilians. We have no real information or investigative information as to what went on, but everyone is talking about what went on in Wisconsin this past weekend. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to show a video. We're going to show a video, and then from there, we're going to talk about it. All right. But let's put the video up now of what happened in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. Now, thank God that Mr. Blake survived the shooting. That is definitely going to be an investigation. A lot of people are asking, why weren't the officers fired? Why hasn't the officer's name been released? A lot of questions are coming as a result of that because people really just don't understand the process. Now, that's a situation right there. I mean, of course, there's going to be an investigation. They don't have to file a complaint, internal affairs, because the person has not died at the scene. Internal affairs, that's something they would respond out to because it's a police involved shooting. They would have probably a shooting team. But if let's say that happened on Port Authority jurisdiction, what would be some of the things that you would how you would handle that type of investigation?
Well, the first thing I would make sure is that with any action, medical attention be brought to both the victim or the young man that was assaulted, and to the officer too. And there's got to be time. You have to do the investigation. You have to get all points of view. A lot of people don't realize is that we have to see the whole story. And I think a lot of us get caught up in media and social media that we don't look at the whole story. We don't see what happened before then. We don't see what happened after, and people were saying, oh, he had a knife, and that came out a day or so later or something like that. Or some people would say, oh, he was going to the car. He might have been getting a gun. And, we might have seen that he wasn't getting nothing later. You know what I'm saying? So people don't wait for the investigation to go. We want action now. And as tough as it is, we can't always get action when we want it. Mm-hmm. It'll come, but, we have to allow that investigation to happen.
Right.
Because, people come up there is like, yo, he ain't fired yet? No, he's not fired yet because we still got to go through. Like, you don't want nobody judging you, in the beginning because you're wrong, and they didn't see that. Let the investigation happen. And mm-hmm. I tell everybody all the time, once that's all said and done with, and the evidence is clear, and you still feel outraged after the investigation, by all means, exercise your constitutional rights and you protest. But at the same time, when those investigations come out and people that saw them out and they came out, they was just like, well, yeah, he did do that. Then it's what it is.
Right. Right.
It's what it is. But, don't, what they call it, don't put the horse before the carrot.
Cart before the horse, right? Yeah. So yeah. When would be a situation where an officer would be fired immediately? All right, now we've seen a couple of instances.
You just can't do that, because if that was the case, you know, half of us wouldn't even be sitting here talking right now. Mm-hmm. Because if everybody came and said like, oh, John Arnold did this and John Jones did this and Tony Cox and stuff, we all did this, like we'd be fired and they'd be like, oh yeah, by the way, they really didn't do that. You know, this happened.
Right.
Investigate first.
Right.
So they take them off the street, you know, yeah. That's a good thing.
Yes, Steph, and you're 100% right. Take them off the street, put them behind a desk, do something, and just keep them out of the public limelight while y'all investigate.
Yeah.
So all right. So let's look at this a little bit, because we have, you know, first of all, I want to let the viewers know. Listen, every case is unique. You can't, you cannot compare George Floyd, the brother in the Wendy's parking lot in Georgia, and this particular shooting. You can't compare them all. You have to look at them with a fresh set of eyes. And every state law is different. You know, every municipality has SOPs and standard operating procedures, like in the Breonna Taylor case, that, you know, is up for discussion and debate, and as to why those officers have not been arrested right now or immediately. But there's something called an egregious act, and if it's an egregious act, the chief executive officer of the department has the ability to immediately suspend, and I believe fire, depending on whatever union, whatever the union contract is or state law is. So it's different across the nation, because we all have our uniqueness about how we do policing. We have the basic concepts that are very similar, but there's different laws and rules and regulations with each department. So you can't say what happens in Minnesota and then compare it to Wisconsin and think that you're going to get the same result. So in Minnesota, you had George Floyd. Listen, it didn't take long. They did the investigation. Boom, they came back. It was egregious. He broke all types of policy. He broke the law. Boom, fired and charged him. They knew they were going to charge him, so they fired him. This particular situation, we don't know a lot, right? We don't know a lot. And watching the news interviews, Wisconsin is very similar to New Jersey. Whenever a police officer gets involved in a shooting, that department is removed from the investigation. Right. Yeah. The prosecutor's office will come in as an independent agency. They have to, you know, and for transparency. And that's because that's what the civilians wanted. And that's a great thing. So the civilian, that's something that they're protesting and pushing and voting and putting the right people in office have brought that about. So now the prosecutor's office comes there. The people are saying that they're not releasing the name. They're not doing a lot of things because of the integrity in the investigation, because the officer is still entitled to due process.
Yes, just like we all go to court.
Okay, right. Due process. And what you don't want, you said it. You don't want to do the investigation, rush the investigation, exclude exculpatory evidence, which would exonerate or convict or indict, you know, prove the case that the officer did something wrong. You don't want to go to court without that piece of evidence and then let it come up, and then the case is thrown out, and then nothing happens. So we can't be emotional about this. We have to be logical and think about it. We have to, you know, let it take its course and go through it. And I know that from homicide, that's one of the things we did. Like this kind of case, you know, I would be sitting there waiting, and if, you know, Mr. Blake, since he didn't pass, it would be just handled by internal affairs, which would be your department. And one of the things that we have the same, one thing I used to hate as a homicide detective is that when internal affairs didn't do a thorough investigation or do due process, it caused problems down the line for me as a homicide detective, because now my case is tainted and I might as well throw it out because, you know, due process was not there.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, I went to the NYPD homicide school, and you know, it was one of the greatest schools I went to. And one thing it taught me to be patient. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody's just like, oh, why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? Look at what just happened. And it was public news. Jam Master Jay. Look how long ago he passed away, and the homicide detectives were still working.
Working it.
Right. There's no statute of limitations on homicide. That's across the nation.
Y'all and y'all didn't do this. No, it takes time. You want to make sure you have the right evidence. You want to make sure you move forward the right way. And for some people, you know, for some of the tragic incidents that happen, justice works swiftly, and for other people, it's not going to be as swift, but it's going to happen. Just give it time. You know, and that's what I plead for our people, because I don't want to see none of our people get hurt. I want to see nobody get hurt, but give it time for it to work. You know, it'll work. There's guys out there that still work the case.
Right. But now this is the issue that you said. Now, in this particular instance, you know, Mr. Blake is relying on people coming forward and talking to the police.
They got to talk. You know,
but they have a rule: no snitching.
But you know, and I laugh about that. People's like, no snitching, but they still come up and talk. You don't have to talk to us in our face. Come talk to us behind the scenes. Half of y'all know how we move before we move. Come talk to us. Tell us. Push us in the right direction. You know, come out and tell us, like, hey, look, I don't want to talk. Was it you ain't heard it from me? But you know, that old saying, but go out and say something, especially if it's wrong. Especially if it's wrong. Go out and say something.
And I've had that. I have an investigation. A police officer killed a black female in the city of Newark, and you know, we had his version, and we didn't have everybody else's version because they were upset. They were mad with the police, and they didn't want to talk to the police. But because I had a relationship with the community, we were able to get people to come forward. And when they came forward, we got a clearer picture. And it was only because we were able to get the community to come forward, because, you know, his information was, his version of events was one thing, but there was something missing. And we thought we were going to nail this guy. We thought that, you know, man, you're lying. But the problem was there was something missing that he didn't even, you know, he was involved in an incident, and sometimes he lost track of what was going on.
They lost.
Yeah. And the people who were out there who gave their accounts, when we put it all together and presented it to the grand jury, they said, no bill. You know, the officer didn't get indicted, but the family knew that we did a thorough job because we didn't hold anything back. And it was,
you definitely need that information, because I always give, like, you know, I did things with people involved with sex crime investigations and stuff. And I said, listen, I know it's a lot for you to process right now. I said, but come talk to me later.
Right.
There's going to be stuff that you're going to remember that you don't remember in the beginning.
Right.
And people come back, and you'd be surprised how many people talk to you. Right. And like I said, it goes back to what I said. Let the investigation unfold. You know, give us time to work the case.
You
know.
So in that situation, I guess, as they're doing now, the other investigative unit, that's a body that's doing the investigation, that I guess that's what they're doing now. That's why a lot of information is not getting out. They're not, even the police chief who was on today, he said, listen, I don't have any information because they're not telling me anything. And I think that, you know, that's how it should be. You know, I don't think they should talk and communicate and work in cahoots, and the officer knows what they're doing, what they're discovering, because then, you know, they do have a certain amount of days before they file their report. Can you just explain that?
Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to even say certain amount of days, you know, because everybody has their own window of how to process everything that happened. But you got to go forward. And when those people go forward, they file their they file their complaint. You got to make sure that, like, listen, everybody had time to thought, and people are going to say, like, why did he come through that day, or why, you know? No, because everybody processes things differently. You know, you worked homicide, and like, you know, like Tony, you know, you worked, you know, things that it took you a minute to be like, yo, wow, this really happened. You know, and before you even, you know, talk to people, it's like, you know what, let me go back and talk to this person right here, because I know they saw something, and the look on their face made me back off, because I know later on they're going to tell me something that they saw. And you know that, you know, and these people out here got to realize, our people, you know, everybody have to realize that, you know, we need time to process what we saw.
You
know, we're in an internet age where everything is just like, oh my God, this just happened. No, but all of us know that we need time to process the information that we saw and be like, wait a minute, let me look at that one more time. And anybody out here can't, you know, anybody on the net can't tell me they didn't go back 4 or 5 times to look at.
Everybody's gonna see something different.
Right.
Everybody sees something different. You know, I had this discussion with my kids and with everybody, and I'm just like, wait a minute, hold up, let's back up again. Let's rewind it. Let's do this. Let's do that. But we all see something different. So, you know, the people on the ground, it's important. You know, like we always say with terrorism, if you see something, say something. Say something. You know, tell us what you saw. I don't care if it's that day or 2 days later, a week, a month, or whatever the case may be. Come back and say something, because that helps us. That helps us bring justice to the situation.
Right. So Stephanie and Anthony both have an experience. Stephanie has one when she was, you know, wounded in line of duty, and you know, I'm quite sure things were like you said with her. And then Tony, if you remember the shooting on Central Avenue, Tone, we were in Viper unit.
You know,
Central and Burnett.
Central and Burnett, right? So, Steph, were you there too for that?
Yes, I was.
Okay, all right. So now, there you go. Now, I wasn't there, so you know, I didn't talk to him. But did you guys talk to professional standards at that time, Stephanie and Tony, when that went down? You did, right?
He did. I didn't. Remember, I was on loan from Newark, so my vote didn't count.
Oh, that's probably who they should have spoke to, but because you were at the scene, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and Tony was there too, right? The guy, Tony, they said you shot the guy. Did you shoot him?
No.
Somebody jumped on the hood of the car or something.
He shot himself. Well, he shot himself. He didn't want to go back to prison. When we approached the car, he shot himself.
But I said earlier, I don't want to go back.
That's all.
Right.
So
once he shot, we pulled our guns out.
Right.
And you know.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, being involved in that, you know, the officers, it's not that I'm not going to say every department is not like this, but some officers really need a moment to reflect and gather and get themselves together, because it is a traumatic experience to be involved in a shooting or to even witness a shooting. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and not be realistic and say that some departments use that as a ploy to steer the investigation a certain way, because, you know, we know that. But that if that comes out, that's, oh my God, that's, like you said, that's one of those situations where, you know, a lie is worse than a cover up. So as we draw down, you know, I'm gonna let Stephanie and Tony have the last say. So, you know, some questions that they might want to ask you, and then, you know, before we let you go, man, we appreciate you. But yeah, Steph, ladies first.
Well, I have no questions because I thought he's very thorough. However, you know, I'm looking at the TV behind me, and they said they just arrested a 17-year-old with the shooting murder.
Yes.
From there. Okay, that's number one. And number two, I don't know about the basketball fans, but they shutting it down. They boycotting 3 games because of what happened.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Make me that much more sadder, you know.
I hear that, and other than that, I always got my little vote.
Yeah. And Master T, Tony.
No, he covered everything basically. First question that I had, you know, who can make a complaint and what happens when, you know, after that. So he covered everything.
At the end of the day, and I always say this, I'm like, listen, if it ain't right, and you haven't, nobody has listened to what you had to say, don't be afraid to go and voice your opinion, because every good cop is a good cop. Like the same way they come out and say like, yo, I love, Officer Arnold or Officer Cox and Officer Seth. I love them, but at the same time, there's those cops out there that's still running around that's just like, yo, this cat, harass me every day when I walk home. Go make a complaint.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to say something.
That's
like,
right.
Listen, you go home to 123 Smith Street and he sees you every day, but every day he harass you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out there and like they expect us to do our job. Y'all do your job too, because without no follow through, it's still that same circle is going to still continue.
Right. So to our viewers, listen, we thank you for tuning in with us. If you have a complaint, understand that there are forms that are readily available to you. If you don't get the satisfaction that you think you deserve from the local police department, you can go to your county prosecutor's office and your state attorney general's office. Those are your recourses in the event that you don't get what you're looking for from the local. If you feel that you're getting stonewalled, they're trying to dissuade you from, filing a complaint, you have recourse. You can go to these other two agencies and file this complaint and let them know. Say, listen, the reason why I'm here is because I tried to make this complaint down at the, municipal level, and they wouldn't take the complaint. And I think that is something wrong there with that. And I'm making a complaint now, and they have a right, they have an obligation to take my complaint, because that's what we are. Adele said it, we're public servants. So when you work for the public, that's what you're supposed to do: serve the public. You're open to their scrutiny. You're open to them filing a complaint against you if you do something wrong. The thing for cops are, we don't go there every day to try to do something wrong. We try to do a good job and go home back to our families. But sometimes we have those issues. We have those complaints, and what I will say to you is, don't get yourself in a jam by making up charges, because then you open yourself up to criminal action or civil action by the police officer. So don't do that. All right. Don't make up stuff. If it's not true, don't you get involved with that, with saying that. But if it's true, go for it. Listen, we need you to do that, because we need to keep our police department intact and have some integrity in the department. We need to get rid of bad apples if they're in there. So thank you. I thank Detective Stephanie Treadwell, who was always, she has something for me. We're going to reveal it in the next show. She's going to show what she got for me. She's trying to hold it and burn it for me, but listen.
Don't show that stuff. That has nothing to do with this show. Don't show that.
Go ahead, put it up there, baby. Put it up there, baby. Show the video. Yeah, baby. That's right. You know what's getting ready to happen.
You need to put that
right. So listen, you know what's getting ready to happen. It's getting ready to go down. We're gonna be live and alive on this show for you. And, but listen,
the fight gonna really start.
That's right. Listen, there's gonna be some internal affairs complaints on Protect and Serve.
Nah, we
Somebody don't bring my stuff. Yeah.
Even though I went to, because Cowboys, absolutely not.
I'll come pick that up from you tomorrow, Steph. John.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna give you my FedEx account, Steph. You just sent it to my person.
Why?
But listen, we thank you for tuning in tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Sorry we subjected you to the football, but that's what we do. And listen, we just want to thank you. And if you have any complaints, any issues, still comment. We're looking at comments, and we will definitely get back to you, because this is an important issue, internal affairs, how it works for you and how you're supposed to utilize it. So until next week, we look forward to seeing you the same times and right here at Facebook Live and New Jersey Urban Crime Foundation at 6 p.m. for the next episode. Look for it. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Detective Giles, for coming on. Appreciate it. Love you, man. Be safe. Yes, Tony, Steph, love you. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.